We're getting the first look at former Vice President Kamala Harris's new book, which details the 107 days of her failed presidential campaign. An excerpt from the book was recently released, and her comments about President Biden are shocking, to say the least. Didn't take long for the former vice president to point the finger, alleging Biden's staff just would not let her have a win. Hello, everyone. This is Outnumbered. I'm Kayleigh McEnany. Here's my co-host, Harris Faulkner. Also joining us, Martha McCallum, anchor and executive editor of The Story and co-anchor of Fox News election coverage. Leslie Marshall, Fox News contributor, and Kevin McCarthy, former Speaker of the House and chairman of the Alpha Institute. So let's dive into it. The former vice president says she regretted not pushing Biden to drop out of his 2024 re-election campaign sooner, but acknowledged that doing so would have come off as, quote, incredibly self-serving. This is an excerpt from the book that appeared in a recent Atlantic article. It reads, quote, "It's Joe and Jill's decision. We all said that like a mantra, as if we'd all been hypnotized. Was it grace or was it recklessness? In retrospect, I think it was recklessness. The stakes were simply too high. This wasn't a choice that should have been left to an individual's ego, an individual's ambition. It should have been more than a personal decision." So she was hypnotized and now admits that Joe Biden had an ego. Interesting. But when special counsel Robert Hur characterized President Biden as a, quote, well-meaning elderly man with a poor memory and unfit to stand trial, Kamala Harris defended him, as she did on numerous other occasions.
What I saw of that report last night, I believe is, as a former prosecutor, the comments that were made by that prosecutor, gratuitous, inaccurate, and inappropriate. So the way that the president's demeanor in that report was characterized could not be more wrong on the facts and clearly politically motivated.
He has the intelligence, the commitment, and the judgment and disposition that I think the American people rightly deserve.
Can you say that you were honest with the American people about what you saw in those moments with President Biden as you were with him again and again, repeatedly in that time?
Of course. Joe Biden is an extremely accomplished, experienced, and capable in every way that anyone would want if they're president.
We have a very bold and vibrant president in Joe Biden. I think that age is more than a chronological fact.
So that's what she told us. She sticks by it a little. In the book, she also says at 81, Joe got tired. That's when his age showed in physical and verbal stumbles. If I believed, I do not believe he was incapacitated. If I did believe that, I would have said so. But Kevin McCarthy, is that believable? You sat across from President Joe Biden many times. What was your observation?
This is blaming somebody else for her failure. She knew. She's been in meetings with me. We were both at the book deal a couple of years ago, and I gave a personal experience of how Biden was out of it and took us on a tour down to the swimming pool. Oh. And I had to bring him back in not knowing. She literally called me a liar that day. And she had seen his actions before. Look, she's doing one or two things. She wants to sell a book. She's blaming everybody else but herself for her own campaign. You know, she spent $1 billion, but you couldn't tell me 3 things she was going to do if she won. And then she's trying to set herself up to potentially run in 28. It wasn't her fault. It was all Biden's fault. I want to be the nominee again.
Yeah, it's clearly posturing for 2028. That's a part of this. To use the words ego and reckless, those are strong words. Martha, I want to play a clip from Carl Bernstein. It's from last year. Carl Bernstein, of course, the Watergate reporter. I want to play this because it was not a secret among Biden's inner circle that he had these issues. It was more than just being tired. Listen to this reporting from Carl.
These are people, several of them, who are very close to President Biden, who love him, have supported him, and they are adamant that what we saw the other night, the Joe Biden we saw, is not a one-off, that there have been 15, 20 occasions in the last year and a half when the president has appeared somewhat as he did in that horror show that we witnessed. There was a fundraiser at which he started at the podium, and then he became very stiff, according to the people there, as if it were almost a kind of rigor mortis.
Sounds like more than being tired.
It sure does. You know, I think that the one thing that she says here that I think is actually spot on is that it shouldn't have been left up to an individual's ego. And apparently that's exactly what happened. I think everybody was paralyzed or hypnotized, whatever her word is, because they knew that it was Joe and Jill's decision. And Jill wasn't stepping in to tell her husband that, you know, maybe his best days in politics were behind him and maybe it was time to go retire in Delaware. And Kamala Harris, within the structure of the White House, she says this herself, she didn't have the leverage because she was, I think, you know, shunned, and I don't think she was popular at the White House based on everything we've learned. So she didn't have the leverage. The one thing that would have given her more leverage is accomplishment. And she did have opportunity for accomplishment. And she talks about getting the border job. We now know how popular cracking down on the border is. She had a golden platter put in front of her. If she had said, you know what, you want to give me the border job? I'm going to take it. We're going to make changes at the border. She could have elevated herself to a position where in that moment she could have said, look, guys, he is not going to be able to be president for another term. We all know this. It's time to elevate me. I also think, just one more quick point here, she didn't want to push the process too soon in the game because I think she knew that would lead to a mini primary and she knew she might lose. You know, so she waited till the last second, and then she was the person out of desperation, really, that they needed to call on.
You know, Leslie, to that end about the border, her words and her language I find just very interesting. I shouldered the blame of the porous border, an issue that had proved intractable for Democratic and Republican administrations alike. It was an issue that absolutely demanded bipartisan cooperation, except fact check, it didn't. Let's take a look at the wall. The last year of President Biden, 1.14 million border crossings. The first year of President Trump, he didn't get bipartisan cooperation. It wasn't intractable. Look at that. They magically descend to 125,000. It wasn't intractable.
A couple of things here. I hope we're recording, at least for Kevin McCarthy's benefit, because I agree with one sentence you said, which is unusual, and the blame. I hate the blame game. You know, you have to look in the mirror, you have to own it and accept responsibility. There are numerous things here. One, even the president said it was unfair she was thrown into it. However, two, it is the candidate. And three, it is the party. And my party missed on the big three, and that was economy, crime, and immigration. I constantly said here, sitting on this couch and elsewhere on the network, she should have gone to the border. I constantly said, and I'm from California, I live in California, from Boston originally, but I constantly said they can't ignore, immigration. People may laugh at me. I think, not that Joe Biden would have won, but I think Joe Biden would have done better than she did in the Rust Belt states. And then the bottom line, when you just look, as a Democratic strategist, I look at the numbers. And when we crunch to the numbers, the people that showed up to these rallies didn't show up to vote. So it wasn't just my party. It was the messenger at the helm of the party, and that was her. So it really, I have to say, it bothers me, again, to the blame game. I don't like that. I don't respect it. You know, male, female, Democrat, Republican, own it. Were there things that were thrown at you? Yes. But what did you do wrong? And what could you have done right? And what could you do better? And that's what my party has to do and is doing in its soul searching for the midterms, which I think we're going to win greatly, and for the next presidential election.
They ignored the good advice of Leslie Marshall, and let's hope they continue to do so.
Your party should just let the primary play out. You pre-pick, just like you pre-picked her. She never would have won the primary. And being from California, too, she's not a good candidate. When she won Attorney General, she was the least of all the Democrats performing that year. She didn't even win till 2 weeks later. When she ran for Senate, she ran against another Democrat, and they had to redo her campaign in the middle of the campaign when she had the party. She always starts big, like when she ran for president, then she collapses. But what she should really do if she wants to be 2028, she should own up instead of blame. And she should say, you know what? I was wrong on the border.
That's what Leslie
I should have been there, like you said. That part is right.
I'm not running, though. You just asked me in the green room, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. She didn't have a coalition. She didn't have one on her team, which is why people kept leaving. And then the whisper campaign behind her back that even started reportedly, according to Axios, is 22 or more people that they got to talk with them on Biden's team, too, behind the scenes. She just could not build. She couldn't read the room to figure out that it was much more graceful to make some friends in the room and to be part of the answer. As you talk, have some wins, as Martha talked about. But when it came to the border, I remember the day I was on the air when she said it, because we took it. Don't come. She tried. She tried, and they shut her down. But not just because it didn't fit the Democratic narrative on where they wanted to be on the border, because it absolutely didn't. That was obvious. They didn't like her. And so when somebody who doesn't like you tries to help you win, they're going to help you spend the $1 billion. But those 107 days are not going to be your friend because they're not really on your side.
And that could have been the answer on The View. Would you have done anything differently? She should have leaned right into that. So I did tell people that it is not safe to come, and they should not come under the
Don't come.
Kevin,
and they made her eat those words from her very own party. Well,
you should
said,
come. Were her
come
words.
with a magnet in the air.
Absolutely.
Remember on NBC that she laughed and said, well, I haven't been to Europe either, which she hadn't even been to the border. But what you don't know is if you've ever spent time with her, her turnover for her staff is one of the highest.
92%.
She's not a person that adds people to it. You want people that want to join you. People want to run
coalition.
from
Evan,
yes.
one nuanced, Washington communications point I want to bring up that I think is illustrative of just her demeanor. She says in the book they had a huge comm teams. They had Karine Jean-Pierre briefing in the press room every day, but getting anything positive about my work or any defense against untrue attacks was almost impossible. You never saw me stand at the podium and give defenses of Mike Pence and tout his work. That wasn't my job. You don't see Caroline Leavitt stand up there and be like, here's what J.D. Vance is doing today, and let me defend him against these attacks. It's not what the press secretary does, but she expected that.
She's got her own position. She's the vice president. You can make it what you want to make it. You go out and do that job. There's numerous meetings I'd go in there. She was always late. She didn't really be well-versed in what we were talking about. The time she interjected, it was really not the right moment, and I could shoot her down pretty hard. Wow. So I watched the president's team not have a lot of respect for her. He would start meetings before she was there.
Wow.
That is so critical what you just said. Yeah. She was late. She either wasn't ready or her ego was so much bigger than she thought everybody else's was in the room.
And she was going to rule. Which we heard a lot.
But no, she probably blamed staff. Poor Penny.
I could spend a whole hour listening to this.
I know.
Behind the scenes, Kevin McCarthy.
We did an hour fireside chat called Kevin's Stories About Kamala. I would be totally there for that. All right.
Hey, it's Will Kane. Click here to subscribe to the Fox News channel on YouTube. It's the best way to get our latest interviews and highlights. And click to subscribe to the Will Kane podcast for full episodes right now.